Hi, this is Cindy
And Michael.
from Part-Time Permies, and there are a number of people chatting in the room already. Just give us a heads up, make sure you can hear us, make sure we're not having any technical difficulties tonight. But let's see who's in the room. We have Incense Shop, Half Acre Dreams, White Picket Fence, hello, Curie from Built on Rock Homestead, Butcher Baker, Caser Maker, or BBQ as they call that channel sometimes. Diana and Bandana. Hello, Bandana. I'm trying to see if there's Linda Taylor. Hello. So I hope everyone's having a good week.
I hear Bandana's doing some pressure canning.
Yeah, I had to jump in on some of that conversation on Facebook if you guys are following there. But anyway, so Carrie posted another video on our Facebook page about the mint that couldn't grow where she wanted it to grow versus like with all the herbs that she put in this little mini raised bed, but was growing in a place she didn't put it.
Yeah, once it gets going.
It goes wherever it wants to go. But I was just starting to watch that one. I didn't get all the way through it, but because I, had to start my own show. Guess what? Wait, picket fence. What? And I'm trying to see if there's anything else. Okay, so we do have sound. That's all good. How's everyone's garden growing? That's a good question for everybody.
Just got done cleaning all afternoon, evening.
Yeah.
So.
And my allergies are going nuts right now. So if you see, my eyes are red.
Yeah, allergies have been, had mold, we've had dust, we've had
lots of rain.
It's been rainy day today.
Yeah.
Kind of off and on.
Yeah.
Oh, White Picket Fence got our book. Oh, good.
Yay! Yay.
How much have you gotten through it? Yeah. It's kind of dense, but it's fast reading.
Yeah. So, good. Yeah, no, there's a lot of information in there. So, that's awesome. And that, actually, which type of mint it is?
Eat
it. You can taste it. Now, the question, there's actually a lot of plants in the mint family.
Probably 20 plus.
Oh, at least.
Mint, minty mints, plus other things that are related.
Plus a lot of wild plants that are related and all in the mint family as well. So, I'm not sure. It does look like something like a peppermint spearmint type thing, that from what I saw on the video.
So we had there's some big mint farms in our area that used to sell to Wrigley and other people, or still do. So mint grows really well around here as a commercial item. And we had a mint group, and we had a mint seller next to us last year, and so they grow traditional spearmint and peppermint, not the really intensely super hybridized, and so they say that the peppermint is sort of spicy and the spearmint is cooling, flavor wise, just as a differentiation, because we don't think about it too much.
Peppermint is actually more warming when you put it on the skin, and spearmint's cooling on the skin. Yeah, that's what you were saying as well. Yeah, Bandana. That was a classmate of. I had no idea who it was, but I was like, that was risky.
Oh, that was a classmate. Interesting. You're totally right about that. People have been canning without checking pH or adding in citric acid. They've been canning all kinds of crazy things without pressure canning. They've been canning with lots of oils and confing for generations, but you've also had people getting intensely sick and dying at moments.
Not all the time.
And there's no warning. So why take a chance when you know easily how to avoid the chance?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. My guess is if you purchase mint, it might be a peppermint. And if it's the other one, spearmint. Peppermint, one of them's a hybrid of the other. I think peppermint's a hybrid of spearmint and watermint. I forget. I read it somewhere sometime.
Then we found out that Crohn's, the little tuber, white tuber that is popular in France and salads and things, that's actually a mint family, and of course catnip and a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of
And
them.
then there's all your chocolate mints
I
and
was gonna
other
say, yeah,
specialty
especially varieties.
that have been sort of
Yeah.
flavor
Yeah.
related.
Yeah. So, Suburban Hillbillies.
Basil's related to mint, right?
Basil and oregano, they're all in the mint family. So they're all in there. And so is a dead nettle is in the mint family.
So
Anything.
I was
Basically,
wondering about that.
a lot of those plants have a square stem to it. So you could tell it's kind of in the mint. Now, not every single plant with a square stem is in the mint family, but many are. So whether it's wild or cultivated, if it's in the mint family, it's going to have a square stem. There are a couple other families that have square stem, but that is one way to tell. So yeah, I have a bunch of spearmint. I actually, you know what I've been doing recently, Bandana? I've been going back outside in the garden, and we've had swarming mosquitoes. So I've had this lemongrass spray that I spray on, but I will also grab handfuls of my spearmint and just rub it on me and then stick it in my pockets to try to deter the mosquitoes a little
About
bit.
2 weeks ago, the mosquitoes exploded.
Yes.
I mean, a day or two earlier, there was just a few mosquitoes,
Yeah,
and then it
peppermints.
was impossible to avoid them because of all the water and the temperatures were changing and stuff. And we said, well, we had a dragonfly swarm a few years ago, and we said, I bet we're a week or two out.
Yep.
And this week we had an explosion
Of
of
dragonflies.
dragonflies, which is great because they
Yep.
don't bother anything and they eat lots of mosquitoes. So
Yep.
we've got dragonflies buzzing around like a war zone, hopefully taking down our mosquitoes a little bit.
I need a plant salsify. I do have. I don't think
We've tried before. It's never really taken very
yeah.
well. I enjoy it. I have cooked with it a lot in restaurants. It's not used very much.
Yeah.
Although classical restaurants and in Germany and Europe, they use it a lot more. But I worked with a lot of places that did a lot of European work, a lot of European cooks. So I really enjoy working with it. It's a little pain to peel. You can actually buy it frozen, already cleaned, which is really nice.
Yeah.
But I've peeled plenty of it too. It's just really sticky, and you have to put in acidulated water like an artichoke, so it turns black really fast. But it's tasty. It's mild, and some people think it's kind of like oyster. I just find it mild and kind of like a white asparagus in many ways, but it's fun to work with.
Hey, Tina. So yeah, and I want to go back to the question about gardens. We were in the garden. Well, I was in the garden yesterday. You were doing work on the roof.
Yeah. I was fixing a gutter that had starting to come down from rain, and then meshes. Oh, we had a big branch went right through the crown of our barn roof. Yeah. It knocked about a 1-inch hole. I saw water on the floor a couple of times. Thought Cindy was spilling water. It was right over this sink that's not in use. And I was trying to figure out, and then I looked up and I saw light, and I said, "Oh my gosh!" And
we have a hole in the roof.
It's about a 1-inch hole where a large, branch had gone right directly down into it.
Yeah.
So I fixed that up. It wasn't actually that hard to fix. I think so we were running around.
At least work
doing
for
a little seasonal, and I blew off the roof and blew off our woodshed. All the oak fronds and stuff are down, so a lot of that spring post-winter trash that's sort of on the roofs I could blow off of the barns and the woodshed.
Yeah, Linda, the mosquitoes attack me more than they attack you, but not as much as they
They do a lot. I just try, and when I'm busy, I just try and ignore it.
But there have been times, like when we were at Memphis in May that one time, you didn't hardly have any bites on your legs. Now, I had bites all the way up my legs. Like, I looked like I had a rash from so many mosquito bites.
You probably should have drank more bourbon. I heard that's what the mosquitoes don't like, bourbon.
That would have been Tennessee, so that would have been whiskey, wouldn't have it? No. I'm joking. The O blood type thing, I don't think is right because the majority of people in the U.S. actually have an O blood type. So I do think both of us do.
Yeah.
So O blood type is the most common in the U.S. Of course, there's others too, but that would be a lot of people who are attracted.
Claire's got blueberry. We have blueberry, very small ones.
Little ones,
they blossom. They're coming. We are in a very large commercial blueberry growing area.
Yep.
Fruit in general, but we have excellent blueberries that export. We talked about last week. Strawberries, which tend not to export because they're picked really ripe and we're like jam driven. They're really flavorful. They just showed up in the farm markets this weekend, very small amount, which means next weekend, this coming week, we will be full on
Strawberry
And our
season.
strawberries can run for 2 weeks to a month, basically. It's a short season in Michigan, and it's very temperature dependent and weather because of mold and mildew issues and rot. It's a temperamental strawberry season, but when they go well, it's an amazing crop around here.
Noah's Ark.
And then blueberries come.
Do you see that request?
Where?
Where'd it go? There.
Oh.
Yeah. Can you see it with my sweatshirt on? Maybe a little bit. I'm not that big, but I am.
A little beer belly.
A little beer belly, not. Okay. Yes, I do have a baby bump, but you can probably see it a little bit more with the shirt I have on under it. But you know, it's a night shirt.
We have found that off and some of the commercial sprays don't always work that well around here. If
no, they don't.
If we have a really if we have a real high DEET concentration, they do pretty well. Of course, the problem is DEET just masks mosquitoes, so if they're running into you and they come in contact, they're going to
bite anyway.
Anyways, it's just masking your smell, so you're not attracting more. And of course, DEET isn't the best thing for you.
No.
I just bought some 40% DEET that was, we use it very little. We've been doing some herbal.
I try only to put it on my, if it's really, really bad outside, I will try only putting it on my clothes and try not to put it on me. But,
of course, the other thing is DEET will melt like vinyl-y type surfaces a lot of times.
Yeah,
it's tough on the certain plastics. But yeah, the herbals work decent, although when we have a full onslaught like this, they don't work enough. And when you go up into the upper lower peninsula and you go into the UP, Michigan is notorious for just awful mosquitoes much of the year. When you go, if you go hiking or camping up north, I mean, I had Boy Scouts other times we were camping. It was miserable. You couldn't sleep. You woke up in the morning with hundreds of bites. It was just
terrible.
Mosquito net. Yeah, I mean, just.
I mean, I have them down in Trinidad when we went down there.
Yeah, I mean, you really do, because it doesn't matter. Even people put on 100% DEET, still ended up with a lot of bites. So yeah.
Thanks, Half Acres Dreams. My guy. I'm just catching up on the comments as they come in. So hello, everybody who just came in.
The mosquitoes use it as mouthwash. Yeah, they do that around here.
Cats are extremely sensitive to feet. Be careful around Helix.
Helix gets kicked and stepped on all the time.
Black cats. I've had a decent number of cats growing up and stuff. Black cats always seem to get underfoot. This one is also a klutz, so he's always staying low to the ground.
He falls, he runs into things, he jumps and he misses stuff all the time.
And he falls off, like he falls asleep and falls off the arm of the couch.
And bat houses would help because bats eat thousands of bugs. Yeah. We actually have bats. You can see them right about now at dusk. You can see usually 2 or 3 pretty aggressively flitting around right in our lawn area and our neighbor's lawn area. So and the dragonflies. When I was up north, I was on Mackinac Island for a season. They're notorious for their bats, and there are hundreds, thousands of bats at night. The mosquitoes are really bad up there too.
Yeah.
And you could actually, I've had people run into, I've had them come right across my face, but they've run into people, and they say they don't run into people. They do occasionally. It's just so much bad activity up there. Again, you need it because the mosquitoes are terrible when you're right on the lake.
Oh, okay. DEET, not feet. I was like, where did that come from? Cats don't like DEET.
No, I don't think it's good for them. No. We don't put any in the cat.
Oh, no. Cats also shouldn't really have any essential oils on them either, because they clean themselves too much and they will ingest too much of it. And most of it's too strong.
So Costco is selling a natural insect repellent that I bought. It's just very citronella and soapy smell. I bought it. It was on special last year. Used it. It sort of worked, but what we blend up is actually better. Mm-hmm. They're selling again this year. I didn't buy any more. It just wasn't that effective.
I've been using it. I think that stuff works pretty well for halfway well for the mosquitoes, but the stuff I blend up, it works better for ticks. So
well, if you want more of it, I think they still have it.
Yeah.
For $14. But
I've been using it.
I just got it 2-for-1 cans of 40% DEET for when it really got bad.
But now it's laying off because
it was just getting so bad. I went ahead when I saw it, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get at least a can or two that we have it because it was
just in case, because
trying to finish up the garden. It was
which we're still trying to do. We did get going back to the garden now.
Well, last week we completed the broad forking about
Yes.
2 or 3 weeks late, but we're we were done. It's done turning it, so that's why I could repair the roof because the garden was turned.
But yeah, so this week I got corn in. I got these specialty Italian, very large purple beans in. I put more of those in. We didn't eat any last year.
Italian or not.
I thought they were Italian. Well, anyway,
the
large
peas, the peas that are coming up are Umbrian soup peas. Are supposed to be amazing. They didn't really grow last year. We had a few that came up this year.
We have a bunch of those coming up this year.
Yeah, so they're a dried pea. I'm not a huge fan of dried pea soup, but Shirk says they are incredible. He's never had anything like it, so I believe him. He knows his plants and he knows his food. So
and you should check out his webpage.
His webpage is amazing.
Here, but if you look up Shirk Farm Seeds, I believe you'll find it. It will want to change it to Shrek instead of Shirk.
Yes.
Just switch those two letters and it's basically the same. Sherk. So Shirk Farm Seeds has a lot of specialty stuff. They only sell limited amounts, so I don't think they actually have anything for sale right now.
He probably doesn't have much.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't have anything because I was on his webpage, and he has a little sign pop up that says things he won't have more until I think fall or even next March.
So he focuses on calorie crops. He's amazing. I went out and did a tour with 2 other friends.
Yeah.
Calorie crops. He does some plots as small as like 3x3 or 5x5. Upland rice, which does not require flooding. Wheats, other specialty grains, some tubers, and
Chinese and Japanese yams.
Yams.
I think this is what is coming up by our apple trees because we planted the air tubers last year. And nothing came up last year, but I see a couple of these plants coming up.
Yeah, we were disappointed because they're supposed to be super hardy.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, they throw off these little
air tubers.
He goes, they'll be everywhere. Once you put one in, oh my gosh, it'll be growing. And we couldn't get it to grow. And he was, so now they're going. But he does sunchokes. He does a lot of perennials. So he fits in. He's friends with Mike Hogue. And he's in Bristol, Indiana. So he's just south of us. And he works on cold hardy appropriate items, super early corn and tomatoes. He's right in the middle of commercial corn growing. He will not grow anything other than super early corn because he does not want to visit from any of the corn seed companies. He has a very large distaste for them, and it would not be pretty if they showed up because he would. So he has these very interesting corns, and he has some of the earliest tomatoes available, some of the Russian like cosmonaut style tomatoes, and so that's what he focused on: calorie crops and perennials, things that would actually feed you in a crisis, as he says. You
rather than your
you can grow your lettuce and peppers. He goes, you're all gonna starve. He goes, I'll actually have something that might. Oh, he grows some cool peanuts.
Oh yeah.
Korean peanuts and
some in the ground.
cold hardy peanuts and things like that. But really good grower. Indiana, Bristol, Indiana.
Yep.
It's a small plot, so he's an individual, but he has access to things from all over the country and the world. He's got some informal trades with trading of items with pretty neat people, and I think he's even done some USDA work. He's got things that are so cool, even the USDA needs things from him to experiment, but he's just a really small grower. So he does sell
shirkseeds.com.
Yep, he sells very small amounts of things. He has his own seed saving exchange. And so when he has excess and he likes it, he does sell certain things, and they're very affordable. So he is not, I'll tell you, he's not living rich. But he is doing some really neat growing.
Yeah, he is. So so if you're looking for things to play around with, he's got some good things to play with.
And if you want cold hardy, or if a lot of us we forget about.
Yeah, so Suburban Hillbillies, save the website because, like I said, he has a very limited amounts of seeds. He's just trying to keep a lot of these rare varieties going. A lot of that is,
See if they're cold hardy. See
yeah.
if they could potentially be a commercial or small commercial crop in our general area.
He doesn't bulk sell any of them either. So basically, if someone wants to grow them more, he basically sells them a starting batch for them to start saving their own seeds and expanding their own.
So with
So
yeah, he
yeah,
was saying with all the brewing going on that people wanted, some of the bigger brewers called and they wanted some especially barley or some spelt or something that he had that brew with, and he goes, we want to do a 30-acre test plot, and he goes, look, he goes, I can send you a packet of seeds, you might get. If you're lucky, you might get, I don't think it was an acre. He says, you're going to get whatever you get. The second year, you might get an acre. The next year, you might get 10 or 20 acres. And like, that's it. He goes, hey, nobody else has them. So he goes, it is what it is.
He's just trying to keep them going.
He's sort of like that nonprofit, research hospital where they make a big enough discovery so that a big company can actually put the money in to make something, big and useful. So he says, look, if you really are interested in brewing with it, take the time and take the 2 or 3 years and develop it.
Yeah.
In fact, some of the things are neat. He's spread them around. If he likes the way they're growing, some of the rices, forbidden rices and other upland rices, he has, he'll send them out to other farms in the area, especially organic farms and isolated farms that have good growing standards. And he'll say, hey, grow some of these. Let me know how they work. So if he can get 4 or 5 farms that like them, he maybe will propagate them up, but he can also solidify that they're an ongoing sustainable crop and that they are and that they work well on beyond his land.
Why is it not recommended to can meats that have been cured, smoked, processed, like hammed, cured sausage and cured sausage?
I need to look into it a little bit. I have some
fillers
suspicions.
Or the fat or the pork and beans okay, ham and beans not.
Yeah, what I'm thinking is, so when you do a cured item, you add in nitrates. That's what makes it commercially or legally cured. Obviously, salt and sugar is what is a form of a curing, but it's the nitrates or nitrites. When you go through additional processes of additional heating and time and possibly pressure, I'm wondering if you don't break down the nitrates more, and so they can't certify that the nitrates are active enough if you had a botulism. I don't know if that, but that because you're crossing mediums and crossing processes, it may be more, it's just not verifiable as 100% safe. The other thing is if you have larger chunks, maybe it cooks different, but usually a heavy retort, which is what canning is, enough time for the size of the jar is to actually bring the heat all the way through to the center. That's why it's approved. So yeah, it could be mixed medium, but I think it has to do with the addition of nitrates not being guaranteed to work. If you took small amounts of previously cured things, put them in, and then you did I'm going to guess you're at a pretty low risk. That might be a risk I would take, but and I need to do a little more research. The health department and USDA, FDA always gets very interested in mixed medium, multiple applications. So you can do 2 things. If it's approved for one thing, but you add something else to it, it may not be approved anymore. So they're not certain, is all they're saying, is my guess. I have the opposite situation with my pasta. It's not cooked, it's unpasteurized, but it is. I have a 2-step safety, which is why you can actually do a cottage law, some types of pasta cottage law, because one, it's
at least in Michigan,
it's dry enough. Yeah, and it depends state to state. But and think about how many times have you found anybody that's gotten sick from
pasta,
personal, homemade pasta? If it molds and gets nasty, you throw it away. But first thing is you dry it out, so the drying process brings it to hopefully a level below 11% humidity or water content, so that you can't have pathogenic growth. But then you boil it. Nobody eats pasta. Well, I'm going to say that's not true, but you boil it to cook it, which would kill mold and most other bacteria that might be present on the surface prior to cooking. So when you have a 2-step kill process, that's how Michigan certifies all 13 cottage laws items. You have to either have time and temperature, which is your classic. You have to have acidity. You have to have lack of moisture, dryness, or you have to have a cook step. So when you put two of those together,
You're
they
pretty safe.
assume that it's safe enough that could be prepared in a home, and it can, and if they haven't seen other problems of outbreaks. That's why fruit jams and fruit pies are allowed in Michigan for cottage law, because they have high acidity, they have high sugar content, which are both preservatives, natural preservatives, and they're cooked. Now, that's why they don't allow onion and bacon jam and vegetable jams, even pepper jam in Michigan can't be sold under cottage law because it's not a high acidity fruit.
Yeah.
It's a low acidity fruit or vegetable, so you only have a single kill, not a double kill.
And
Same with pies.
the bacon jam question, wouldn't that, not all bacon is nitrate cured?
Yeah, most commercial bacon is nitrate cured, mostly because you want the pink color because it's attractive. Actually, there are a lot of recipes out there where the nitrates are optional, and you can just do a salt sugar cure, salt sugar spice cure. It's going to look gray when it cooks. The only caveat on that is it must be hot smoked. It must be oven cooked or hot smoked to full temperature, which I believe is 185 on bacon. Is it 130? I have to look it up. Seems hot. Maybe it's 155, I think is what it is. So if you hot prepare it, now you can't cold smoke. So like double smoked, where you cold smoke and then hot smoke, you can't do that without nitrates. Anytime you're going to cold smoke or cool smoke, not be at above 140-degree temperature, you have a risk because you've removed oxygen. The fire has possibly consumed all the oxygen, making an oxygen limited or free environment in the smoke chamber. You now have a possibility for botulism to grow. Therefore, you must nitrate, and because of the long 24, 48-hour smoke period, if you're doing hams or whatever, you must use nitrates on a low cool smoke or cold smoke. So yeah, there is an option if you're looking for truly, and we know all the nitrate made without nitrates and all that bacon that's pink, that's stupid. It's all made with celery juices. It all has nitrates, just from a different source. It's a scam of legal language. But if you truly want no nitrates added, make your own bacon and hot smoke it or oven cook it, and with a little smoke flavor or powder or nothing at all, and you'll be just fine. And it's truly uncured.
Do you have trouble drying the pasta when it's pouring outside?
Yeah, I can. Tell the butcher you want non-pink bacon. Butcher may or may not have any truly uncured bacon. Yeah, I was just. They may be able to request it. I think Newski's or Apple. What is it? Apple Valley, Apple something. One of them I think has a truly uncured bacon. Problem is I find the salt so low on it, which is I don't know how they get away with that, because the salt is part of your curing and safety steps. I find some of the nutritional bacons, the salt is brought down so low that it's not appealing, because you need some salt. But if you look around on the specialty market, you can find it. Your butcher may or may not have it. If you have a good specialty butcher, they'll have it or be able to get it for you.
Going back to Carrie's
pasta,
question.
yeah. Yes, when the humidity is very high, it can be very hard to dry pasta. I usually dry pasta in a period of about 3 days. Commercially, it's done in 3 to 8, 10 hours. They basically use a low temperature oven, and they use some specialty monitoring of increasing humidity and temperature very rapidly through a long conveyor line where they monitor.
I hold the walnuts.
So when I hang it in just ambient, I did have some batches that came just a little above my 11%, 11.5%. I was probably 13%, 14%. And you do have the potential to get some mold. I had one batch that looked like I might have got some little mold spots, just little white beginnings of mold a couple years ago, and I threw that away. That was when I was building out my commercial kitchen, and I did not have a drying room. So we built a drying room that's really simple. It's just a walled off room with with moisture block board and roof and stuff. And then I have a humidifier a dehumidifier and some fans, and I manually monitor it a couple times through the drying process each day. And that way, what I can do is I can bring the humidity down, and I can, so when it's really humid, say in the spring and it gets hot out, and let's say it's even not that humid outside, but because the basement, as it cools, the humidity goes up. The basement could be cold, so cool and humid. So what I need to do is, so what I had to do is the drying room. So I'll turn on the dehumidifier and I'll hold it for my final step. But if it's really humid out before I pack it, I'll keep things in there and I'll hold it additional period of time to make sure it stays dry. Now, pasta, once it's dry, should be okay regardless of the humidity. I mean, if it got super crazy humid for a long period of time, might be a problem. My short pastas are packed in a
Airtight.
fairly sealed container. That's why I'm concerned that I want to have that pasta pretty dry when I pack it, because that environment could have a high humidity, artificially high humidity. My long pastas are somewhat perforated bag, so they're going to be ambient humidity, so it doesn't. They're going to be okay because they breathe. The problem is the lack of breathing if I'm a little too wet. So yeah, it is an issue. It's something I look at constantly. I actually take weights when I make it and weights when I finish, and that's not a perfect indicator, but I've done it enough. I can tell when I can kind of by feel and look, one more feel, but by weight I can tell very close
how much
that I've reached, and I know my percentage when I'm really happy. And if I'm a little above that, I know that I need to hold in the drying room another few hours. So yeah, that's a big part of my commercial protocol to try and provide a high quality and safe product. The reality is, if it ended up molding, it would be disastrous, and that I'd have to rebate people. People get very kind of skeeved out by it, and it's like chips. You get one bad chip, one bad beer or wine, people don't buy your brand. It probably really still wouldn't hurt anybody. Because when you boil it, most of the molds and things, it's probably wouldn't hurt anybody, but it sure would hurt my business potentials for a lot of people.
So you got to be really careful with that. Bandana, yeah, we're gonna miss HOA this year, but hey, you could come up to Michigan in July if you want to come to Hootenanny.
Come to Hootenanny, you'll know all kinds of people there.
Yeah, so we got to go to Pratt Hootenanny. We will be there, and we'll be doing pasta demo. He'll be doing
different pasta. I'm gonna do rolled pasta for the most part, yeah.
And then and we'll probably have a pasta dish for food.
I think so. Don't know what it'll be.
It is somewhat it started really as like a potluck in a way, but it's expanded so much and people are coming from out of state, so
they don't into lunch and dinner potluck.
Yeah, it has. But on the other hand, there's so many people from out of state that they don't expect them to bring food.
There's so much food like any potluck, yeah.
But there's so much food going around that it's not a big deal.
Oh, but I thought they might be coming.
Yay.
Yeah. So we won't be at HOA because
we'll see you in
otherwise
July.
We might be having live birth at HOA. That's right on top of due date.
It's just before my due date, so yeah, we're not doing that this year. But maybe next year with a 1-year-old. That might be interesting.
Yeah.
So
Hootenanny's gonna work. We're tent camping.
Yes.
Cindy will be there Friday night. I have to do market, so I will be getting there into the late afternoon.
Yeah.
By the time I have to figure out, I'm carrying so much stuff to market now. I'm trying to figure out if I have to
drop it off at home.
Go home.
Yeah. It's going to be.
I'm wondering, maybe I have a person working. Maybe I can dump some of it off with them. Question is, can I get everything I need with me, because my vehicle's full with market stuff.
Yeah.
And if I have to come home, it adds an extra
hour. Yeah.
Probably more than an hour. I think I showed up almost 4 o'clock last time.
Yeah.
That would put me at like 5 o'clock arrival. Plus, I've been up at 3:30 in the morning, so I'll be pretty
tired.
That drive would be rough. So I don't know. We'll figure it out, but we're going to be there.
Yeah. So we will see you at the Hootenanny, and anybody else who wants to come for the Hootenanny, check out the Pratt Family Homestead, and they have a lot of information on
no
their
charge
channel.
For that event. Bring something to pass, and
if you're spending the night, there's camping available still. They that's I think $35 a night or something like that. So it's not bad. We have tent.
I guess if the weather's absolutely terrible, hot, humid, Cindy will probably just have to hitchhike. I'm sure she'll find somebody who's got a trailer. There's a lot of people with trailers that probably have an extra spot.
Last year it wasn't bad actually.
No,
Really
it was
nice.
comfortable last year.
Last year there was one person who slept one night in her. She slept in her
That's
car.
right. I forgot about that.
She put the seats down in her car and put her air mattress back there and slept in her car.
We don't have a trailer,
No.
and so yeah, so some point
we do have an air mattress. So as far as
it wasn't uncomfortable. So we have a good sized tent, and it's an easy put together.
We're gonna have to check on the air mattresses and whether they're holding air, because I know a few of them are not, and I'm not sure if we've gotten rid of the ones that aren't yet. So we're gonna have to do a test on that before going out there. But there'll be nurses and other medical people.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be plenty of people there to help Cindy on Friday get things situated.
She said the HOA. No, but yeah, set up. Yeah, because I'm actually somewhat limited on lifting the further I go here. So another month along, and I'm probably going to be at a 40. Well, one doctor said 20 pounds, which is like, I know people have heavier purses than 20
normal
pounds.
people lift 20 pounds
all the time. And the other ones had 40 pounds. I was like, that sounds
40 sounds a little more reasonable.
Unfortunately, a lot of things around here are 50 pounds, like feed bags and stuff. So that means I'm
Hello, Branscombe Farms.
Not doing that anymore. Yeah. Hello. We have a lot of new people in here, I think, today. So it will be interesting. I might have to recruit help. Not necessarily put up the tent. It's really easy to put up, but just to get it lifted out of the car and out of the bag and spread out. But
yeah, and Cindy's bringing some stuff, so I'm sure she'll get that figured out, because I can't. I got to do market on Saturday. So.
I am tent camping on Friday night without him, so I'm setting up. And he is joining on Saturday night because he has market Saturday morning. So I get to do the whole setup of the camp site with the tent. But I tent camp all the time. In fact, it's somewhat luxury with the air mattress and all that, I consider, because
the question is, since she doesn't cook, how is she going to eat?
I can make some few things over a fire. And eggs. I'm really good at
eggs every meal.
Could bring burgers. They're easy to grill up over a fire. Bring some sausages or something. Anyway. So
Cipollini onions are great, and I
missed that.
Cipollini onions pickle really nice, nice and tart. They work great as a sweet pickled onion, and you can add all kinds of fun spice. But I mean Thomas Keller is a phenomenal chef.
Yeah.
But that recipe I just find is a standard, which is modifiable, is such a easy to use, universal. And then again, you can move the sugar wherever you want with it. If you keep the salt pretty much the same, and the vinegar and even the vinegar, I change vinegar. So white vinegar is super strong. Fruit vinegar is like cider vinegar is pretty strong, and wine vinegar. But I will rice wine vinegar I find is not that strong, and I will use a lot more, like 75% rice wine vinegar. So feel flexible to adjust a little bit with your vinegar, but keep the salt about the same, vinegar about the same, and you can play with sugar and spices and hot infuse it, whether you cool it for later or you hot pack and pour it over hot. Get the flavor of your herbs and spices and such all in it, and it works great. And of course, you can take another trick, if you want to heat up your vinegar, which can be kind of stinky, you need to cool it fast. You can always take ice and take the equivalent amount of water it needs to go in, pack a container with ice, and then fill the ice with water to fill in the space, cold water. And then you can dump the cold water in to help chill it. That's how we make all of our brines, using ice, because if you have a hot infused brine, you got to cool it before you can do it. Red wine vinegar is great. It's a high acidity. Usually it's like 7%, standardized down to 7%. Works really nice and good flavor. White wine vinegar works fine. I like cider vinegar because it's fruity. However, if you want a really crisp crunch in your pickled items, white vinegar I find gives you the best result, because it just it's and you do need to add sugar and things to take the bite of that white vinegar out. But don't underestimate cheap industrial white vinegar and what it can actually do. It'll blow you away. Balsamic vinegar is very expensive to begin with, and it's very dark, so it stains everything. So those are the two downfalls: cost and color. It also can be very sweet, and the acidity can be lower, so it may be a blend. White balsamic vinegar, which I and other people sometimes question, is it really balsamic? Because it's white. You could use that because balsamic vinegar is always red, and it goes through all the barrel aging. There's lots of processes of cooking and speeding up balsamic vinegar too. So that's why there's the cheaper ones. But yeah, I'd be limited on where I would use balsamic vinegar just for those reasons.
What causes gravy to separate?
Usually the fat. So you haven't removed the fat. So if you're pouring off, say, turkey juices, where you may have a lot of liquid, pour them into a container, let the fat come to the top, and
skim it off.
Skim most of it off. Now, a good gravy should have a little bit of fat in it. Skim off most of it because you're gonna have all the flavor in the liquid, and if you thicken the liquid, it shouldn't break. Now, if you really want to play with the fat, take the fat and make your roux, your flour. Instead of flour and butter, use any fat. Use the flavorful fat coming from roasting, be it duck fat or whatever, and make a roux with some of that fat. Thicken the gravy with that, and it shouldn't separate. You can always bring things together with a little cornstarch quickly or arrowroot or something, but yeah, a traditional home-style gravy. Work that roux out, make a nice brown roux, and when you brown that roux, it will kind of balance out the whole flavor profile. So if things are a little unbalanced, a little too vegetal, I find that brown roux can do wonders with a thin stock to build flavor, but it'll also keep from separating. Now, if you cook it for a really, really long time, roux will start to separate in a traditional like demi-glace, or where you make an espagnole sauce, classical espagnole into demi, which is a two-step process. People don't do that much anymore. During that process, you may get some separation, which is fine. You actually skim that fat as it purges out from the roux. You skim it off the top with a ladle, and but that's only for real long cooked roux-based sauces.
I did have a question.
Yeah.
For those of you guys who don't know, and there's a puppy moving in the background. Now, we have Part-Time Permies on Instagram as well, and this week we did post a series of photos of harvesting locust flowers.
Yeah.
And
it's about a 1 week period where they bloom, and they bloomed real heavy this year. It seems like, depends on the conditions, how much they bloom.
And then they all get knocked off by wind and rain.
Yeah.
And then we went and put them in honey. So I was wondering, should we taste the honey?
We can. Yeah. The locust has a very, very pungent, pleasant smell. I guess because we have millions of them. But it's almost an overpowering smell. But it's nice, and never realized that was actually the locust. Yeah.
So we did make locust blossom honey. The locust blossoms are edible. I've heard that some people eat the pods, but then some people that you are not supposed to.
Navi says you can only eat the black, according to Navi. She goes, you can only eat the black walnut or the black locust.
Yeah.
The thorny black locust, which is what we have.
Yeah, that's what we have. So
ours taste sweet. They taste like corn shoots.
Do they smell the flowers? Yes. Absolutely. They smell. They had a very heavy floral smell.
Yeah, very perfumey in generally a pleasant way.
Yeah.
Sort of in a grandmothery, perfumey way.
We actually went from, I think they were in bloom for about 2 weeks.
They went longer this year than usual.
We went from having this heavy perfume in our backwoods where all our autumn olive was. And then the autumn olive started.
They had a nice,
They started dying out. And then in front of our house, we have all these locust trees. And they all went into bloom right as the autumn olive was dying out. So it started getting this really heavy perfume.
And we have a canopy of like 60 to 100, almost 100 feet tall.
Yeah.
In the front, 80, maybe it's 80 feet, but they're really big. And so they're all blooming up there.
Yeah.
You made balsam. So you broke the milk, acidulated the milk with when you heated it with balsamic vinegar, I'm guessing, instead of using lemon juice or white vinegar.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, that's interesting. One, I'd be concerned about color. The flavor is going to be fine, and two, I would be concerned about the cost, because when you break the whey, when you break away the and cause it to separate, most of the vinegar is going to be in the whey, which you pour off and discard. So you would ultimately be throwing away most of it, which is why you use lemon juice or white vinegar. Or
it's just cheaper.
Cheaper, because you need the acidity to cause the curds and the breaking, not along with the heat. Not so much the flavor. Finishing a nice ricotta, a homemade ricotta that you've strained a little bit, or soft
drizzling
ricotta.
olive oil.
Drizzling it while it will.
Not olive oil.
It will spread,
balsamic.
and actually it's really good with olive oil too. Using a thick balsamic, like an aged thick balsamic with a high level of must,
that sounds good.
Is really nice. It's really good otherwise, but it will spread immediately and streak, and it'll turn brown. But yeah, the flavor of balsamic and fresh. If you've never made fresh ricotta, buy a gallon of milk. Ricotta was typically left over from making cheese, so it was the whey, so it was no fat. But today most ricotta is like 1% fat. Buy full fat milk. Buy 4% milk, or if you have whatever, and look up a basic recipe, even like Joy of Cooking, the old ones have, making ricotta, and you basically stir it, bring it to temperature, and you break it with acid. Lemon juice, because it's fragrant a lot of times, and then you can strain it in a cheesecloth, press it as long as you want, as firm as you want, and put it on top of pancakes or whatever, and try making it, adding that extra fat in. It's incredible. Or even adding a little heavy cream on top. That fresh ricotta is nothing like buying the tub of ricotta at the store. Totally different thing.
I'm going to go get the honey, but there's another question for you. Do you see it? Read it.
Any reason I shouldn't use insect damaged kale for dehydration? Not that I'm aware of. I would rinse it, obviously, to remove sand, but you do that anyways. It would probably just be especially if you're going to crumble it up and make it into like little chips or flakes. I don't think it's going to cause any problem. Damaged or rotting kale could have an off flavor on it, or be more likely to promote mold, especially if you're doing dehydration with a little bit of heat on it. I don't see any reason why not.
Should I get some bread with that or no?
I guess, yeah. So we don't make a mess. I don't know. Yeah, making ricotta is super, super easy. You can do it. I mean, you could do it on a weekend morning and put it on top of your pancakes. It's going to take an extra half hour or so, and you can have warm ricotta that's been lightly pressed, a little cheesecloth, give it a little twist, and.
So, by the way, this is the Locust Honey. You can see our packed full jar actually shrunk down to that much Locust flour from being packed full and a bunch of honey in there. So definitely shrunk.
Yeah, so if you make traditional ricotta from whey, it's basically money for nothing. And I've seen it done on farms. We were at a farm in Vermont where they did it with sheep or goat. They were sheep. But you make your cheese, and but you're making so much, then you take all of your whey, and we're talking a kettle full, warm it up, pasteurize it, and break it with acid, and then you skim off everything that comes to the top, and then press it in molds to make basically what in Italy is called a ricotta salata. It's a pressed salted ricotta, but you need a lot. I mean, he would save from his modest sized farm. This was a renowned cheesemaker. He would save 2 or 3 days worth of whey before he would. It was every 2 days or 3 days before he made one block of ricotta salata. Now, he was able to sell that at a lower price, but it was effectively free product to sell. So if you're making a lot of cheese and you have a place to store it, and you have a kettle or a whey that you can afford the fuel of making it, use your whey. But if you use regular whole milk, I think you'll get a gallon of milk will provide you like a little less than a quart, if I remember. So it's about a 4 to 1, taking the solids out, removing the liquid. So yeah, you're gonna have a big yield loss. But if you're starting already with whey, it's an even. You're gonna have you've already taken out most of your milk solids to your main cheese item. So this, we packed it full. I packed it pretty hard full of flowers to the point where when I poured the honey over it,
It was hard to
I
get
was
the
having a
honey.
hard time for the honey to. So I poured some in, a little more, tried to stir it. Then and of course, honey dehydrates the flowers. So I went back in the morning and topped it off. We just used it's a semi-commercial Michigan raw honey.
Yeah,
it's pretty tasty that we get pretty inexpensively.
So it's a local, yeah.
Yeah, it's a blended. It's a commercial, but all Michigan raw honey.
So should I just put a spoonful with some flowers on a piece of bread?
Yeah.
Okay.
We happen to have spent grain bread from the market. Sarkozy Bakery, which has a relationship with Bell's Brewery, gets spent grain, and they make a really nice, hearty, dense bread, which makes it amazing ham and cheese or peanut butter and jelly or whatever sandwich bread. So it's got chunks of grain in it. So, yeah.
There you go. You want to try that?
Yeah.
Want more?
No, that's plenty. Hard to smell it over the bread.
You want to smell it from the jar? Ooh.
Yep, it smells like similar to the flowers.
Just dripped on my pants.
Tastes like honey.
Tastes like honey. You taste the flowers at all?
Not greatly, but it might be the bread.
And the flowers, these flowers are actually pretty mild. So when you're
Yeah.
eating them straight off the tree, they kind of taste like corn, like really slightly sweet and corn-like.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
I thought it was pretty similar to a corn shoot. Not quite as strong, but it had a sweetness, sort of like corn silk or corn.
Yeah, if you've ever eaten the shoots of a corn, you peel off the outside and eat the shoots. It's pretty sweet and mild and tasty as well. So of course you won't get your corn if you eat all your shoots.
Well, so speaking of when you start getting corn, some of you are a little farther south might have some eating sweet corn at this point. Once you shuck some of your corn and if you're cutting the kernels off the stalk, you can boil the stalks. We do this in the restaurants when we were, people love corn, but sometimes they don't like corn on the cob because it gets in their teeth. They don't want to eat it around their friends. So we end up cutting the corn off the cob. And if you boil a whole lot of the cobs, you can make corn cob stock. And it's very sweet. And then you can cook it and reduce it down, cut it down by maybe about 4. We'd actually put in Parmesan cheese rinds, the outer rinds, which are too hard to eat. And so we would make a Parmesan broth and a corn broth, and we would use it for soup bases. We made sauces with it. We would reduce it down and mount it with a ton of butter, almost like a beurre blanc or a butter sauce, and we'd do a corn butter sauce, which is incredibly fragrant. So you wouldn't believe how much flavor you can get out of the stalks that you usually would not eat for just soups or whatever.
Carrie, sorry, we're making you hungry. We're eating in front of you. You should bring your computer to your dinner table, or bring your dinner table.
Well, black locust trees, Cindy was saying, are theoretically invasive to Michigan. They grow everywhere.
Yeah, there's
old sandy farm fields.
There's only 2 listed invasive trees on the Michigan webpage, and black locust is one of them.
But
it's not natural.
They're actually very usable. So they are dirty. They shed a lot. The branches tend to break off, and they tend to die, and they can. A lot of ours bend with the wind, and a lot of trunks are bent. Yeah, so it's corn cob jelly. That sounds interesting.
That would be good.
That sounds really good. But locust, so the wood is super, super hard. So people are using it for fence posts and other things. It's actually very hard on your blades for cutting it.
It doesn't degrade. It lasts 50 years.
Yeah, it lasts for a really long time. It splinters easily, so that's why it's kind of fence post material more than other things. Most bugs don't like to get into it. And locust burns really, really hot and dense. It's among the hotter burning. So we burn it for our fireplace, and it's an excellent firewood. I think it burns as good or better than oak. Yeah, it's messy. It's thorny. It has some thorns on it, and different varieties have bigger or smaller thorns. It tends to shed a bunch of broken stuff.
Now, some black locusts actually have no thorns. Ours have thorns.
Ours are moderately thorny.
They're not as big as the honey locust thorns.
Yeah,
those are huge. I've heard of people complaining
they
about
go through your gloves.
they go through your tractor tires. If you drive over them, from what people are saying, they had to replace tractor
we don't
tires.
have any problem with our tractors.
But we also our tractor.
And we just have we have a garden tractor. So yeah. If we were having a problem with the thorns, we would know.
Yeah, but we also clean up the branches before we go driving out there. But you can't get all the tiny ones.
No, you can't get all the little ones at all. Yeah. And the other thing with the locusts is they're probably nitrogen fixers. However, they may kill off some things around the trunk, but they are good for stabilizing soil, and they grow very fast. And you can always cut them down as needed and burn them.
Yeah. So the thing is, if you want, they're really hard to get rid of. If you cut the locust all the way down, you'll get shoots out of the stump. For probably 3 years in a row of constant cutting those shoots down before the stump will actually die out. Yeah. And I've also read some places where if you cut locust all the way down, it does spread by runner. So it'll send out runners and send up new sprouts in other places. So you have to cut the whole area around it as well.
Yeah, we have roots that are exposed or near the surface that definitely have shoots that come up out of them in our backyard.
Mow them down.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the other thing you can do, so corn cob stalk is an amazing, flavorful, usable thing that we use in restaurants when we reduced it a lot. But you can use it for soup bases and fortifying for basically nothing. I wouldn't necessarily take the ones you guys all ate for dinner. I guess you could. But more like when you're cutting the kernels off and say you're freezing the kernels or whatever. The other thing you can do is take the silk, of course, and you can make a quick cooked tea and you can steep the silk. It's very sweet and flavorful. However, it is a laxative. I've heard from a couple of people that they really enjoyed it, and they had like 3 cups or 4 cups, and you should have 1 because you'll figure it out later that you shouldn't have so much corn silk tea, but it's very tasty.
Sorry guys, I had sticky fingers from that honey. But yeah, so it was I'd say the honey is good. I mean, it hasn't taken on the flavor of the corn flavor of the locust flowers yet.
You're gonna count raindrops. Wow. Well, that's a big challenge this year. Food forest permaculture.
Yes, at least in our area. I think. Let's see, food forest permaculture. You're up. Was it Manitoba or somewhere? I'm trying to remember where you're at. I forget. But have a good night if you're taking off. And let's see if I missed anything else walking in.
Storm is coming. Yeah, we had some small. We didn't get any direct hits today.
We got a little bit of sprinkles here and there. We really didn't have any heavy rain.
Compared to all the rain we've had over the last few weeks.
We're supposed to get another inch today, but I don't think
they're talking about 6 to 7 foot waves on Lake Michigan tonight into tomorrow, so we may be getting more rain.
Or at least wind.
And that we already have Lake Michigan at near all-time highs, so they're concerned about flooding and ground erosion potentials.
Oh yeah.
But we're almost an hour, 45 minutes off the lake, so we can still catch extra wind from the lake.
Yeah, we're not quite that far, but yeah.
Well, we're over more than a half hour.
We're more than a half hour away. So, yeah, Canada. So, but I was thinking further west in Canada, not like near us.
Yeah, I guess I would talked about being on Vancouver Island. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway, I did have some other pictures. We've kind of freeformed today. If you guys want to see, we also have chicken forage system going.
That's going well. You can see our fall forage, our early spring.
So this
is later spring. We're in our 4th seeding right now.
Yeah. So this is the most recent growth.
Put down 2 bales of hay, so I invested another 3 bales of hay, another $15 or something.
Yeah, which will probably grow some barley or something because
it's usually barley straw we found, which is we actually have a bunch of mature barley up right now.
This is from a couple weeks before putting that down, so this is probably a month ago.
No,
a couple months ago. Okay, month and a half maybe.
Maybe 6 weeks. And that's done really well. We went down right before some of this heavy rain and some of the warm up started, so it was perfect timing.
Yep.
That was just overseeded and direct seeded where the chickens had gone bare. Nothing, no straw or anything covering it.
Yeah.
So bare
So
or seed.
it's out competing the grass, basically. It's a bunch of there's some radishes in there, a lot of brassicas and such. Now, the other one we had down is this one, which is growth. It has a lot more grains in it, has some brassicas in there, some clovers in there, but that was put down in the fall.
That
So
was
it's a
like a fall forage,
little different mix.
overwintering manure crop, but it was feed driven. And we actually spread that all the way through the back under our two big oak trees, which go behind that
Yeah.
field. Very little of it took. It was
Well, some
all,
of it was eaten, I bet.
a lot of it was eaten. We had
By
turkey,
turkeys.
yeah. And between light and rain, so we spread that.
Okay,
I spread a little
Vancouver.
extra later, I think. So I don't know if that was the stuff in the early spring,
Yeah.
or if it was.
No, I think
I
that
think
was
the
the
barley, I
fall.
think, was from the fall.
I think because it's a different mix too.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we had that growing, and we're starting to put our chickens on there. So I'll have a video on that coming out. Ooh, if it's not going to mean, I'll try to get it out this week, if not next week. But I have 3 videos.
I want to say I paid five. Was it? I think it was 50. Maybe it was $19. I was thinking it was. That's it. Maybe it was $19 was the bill for 3, but that
3
was
bales.
with tax, and that was straw. I took the last 3. I think we had 3 bales of straw and 3 bales of hay. Now this is a feed store on the edge of town.
Yeah.
They're usually up to the ceiling in their little drive-through area.
They were about out.
I don't know if they had more in back or were getting it, but I had ordered 3 and I went around because that's all I could get. I didn't have my truck out there. And again, this is adding. So we've paid for food, for feed, for food to go out there, and then I paid for straw. So it's all going against feed budget. So I don't want to go just buy tons of stuff because I might as well just buy feed from the other feed store. But yeah, so there, I think we are a little low because we've been so wet. First, I think a lot of people, and cold to begin with, I think a lot of people miss the first cutting. So the first cutting of hay will probably be a first, second cutting, really, which is what happened last year.
And they were short.
And they were short last year because it was a real hard winter the year before. People were short on hay, and then they went late before the first cutting, and a lot of people lost a cutting. I think will be similar this year.
Yeah. Buying and shipping from Michigan.
Well, I mean, we had a decent hay and straw. It's just, again, because there's a pressure, across the country that what's happening. So we have a lot of Amish growers south of us, and some of the farmers are telling us. So there's pretty elaborate deals set with like where you store your hay, or that you have to store your first cut so that they can store the second cut. And there's some nice business scenarios going on. Also, people last year were requiring there'd be hay sitting in fields, but they'd say, well, you've got to buy a different cut before we give you some of this cut, or that's already been bought. And so they wanted you to buy large amounts, or they only wanted you to buy square bales instead of round bales. Now, because we're not farmers and we don't have any, large animals, it's not an issue at all for us. But I had a beef cattle farmer, small scale farmer that's at the market next to me in the winter, and so I hear from him, and yeah, it's been tougher and more expensive to keep your animals fed this year.
Yeah. Night bandana, yeah, we should be wrapping up here soon too. But I did want to show one other thing, you guys. We have a bunch of flowers out back that are in bloom, and I did actually put posting. So our dewberries are in bloom. So this is what dewberries normally look like. They have this 5-petal flower.
Dewberries are like a big blackberry.
Yes, except they go sprawling along the ground instead of with the arching vines. But basically the berry looks the same and tastes the same. But we do also have mixed in, and in some other areas, this type of flower on the same type of plant. So it's like a double dewberry flower. So I actually posted, I was like, is this still a dewberry? I posted on our local Van Cal permaculture page.
Respond yet?
Yes, PJ, our friend PJ responded, and he said he's had some dewberries with double flowers too, and his theory is that I was like, is it even a dewberry? I figured it was in the same family, but he said that he thinks it's just, genetic variety in the, natural amount. We have a ton of it back. It's definitely not the predominant flower on it, but I couldn't find it anywhere online of any of the rubus species or genus with that kind of flower. And I was like, it's definitely in that same family, but it's probably just another dewberry. I just thought it was kind of interesting to see a mutated flower in our bunch in back. So, and it's a really pretty flower. I mean, if you look at that, it's got that double look to it. Probably triple layer actually on there.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
good. Yeah.
yeah, it's huge. I mean, compared to the standard dewberry flower, which is only these 5 spread out leaf or petals.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
anyway,
so
yeah,
yeah, I'm just following the hay stuff. So that's more information than I really know because we don't follow it closely.
yeah.
But I remember when I was in junior high, we were traveling summer vacation. I think we were going through Texas, and it had been some really bad years. And there were some states, possibly Texas, they were actually bailing along the interstate and along the
Oh God.
highways, which was brilliant because you got to cut it. Why not? So they were actually bailing it, and the state was picking it up, I guess, and I don't know. I assume they were distributing it at low cost to try and make up some of the difference, which to me is, it's a little uncertain what all is going to be in there, and as far as blend, and
Yeah.
of course, you may have a little bit of contamination from whatever. But that's a brilliant idea to put that stuff to use if you're low on feed.
Yeah, so random mini farm, that's actually what we're thinking is that the flowers just got a genetic variety where it's doubling up the flowers. Like you get some impatiens that are that way. They're double impatiens if you plant those. Or, I mean, actually, your standard roses are that way because if you look at a wild rose,
Mhm.
it's a 5-petal plant. So your standard roses have been selected for those extra petals in it. So yeah, I think it's just the same thing, and it's related to a rose, so it probably just has that genetic variety naturally. It's in the same family. So anyway, hi ASL.
Mhm.
We are wrapping up here soon, unless
Oh,
someone
and
else.
Claire, did you get your bottle of oil that went out on Monday as we had
Oh
predicted?
yes, Claire.
Oh, she's been here for a while. I just
Definitely.
want to make sure you got that. I
There's
assume you
actually
did.
been a good number of people in this chat room tonight. Um, we had other flowers too. There's definitely other things growing. So we have our
Yarrow's up.
yarrows
Yep.
up, just starting to open up. We
Things have been
have
growing really good just because we're getting some heat, a little bit of heat,
and the
and
rain.
the rain, and it's
And then the daisies are blooming like crazy. So a lot of white,
sassafras is going wild. I mean, it always takes off at
yeah,
this point.
a lot of white blooms going right now. It's kind of funny if you watch through our seasons. Right now it's going to be white for the most part. You have some yellow blooms out there, but mainly white blooms. And then it'll turn more yellow as like the black-eyed Susans come out and some of the other yellow flowers come out, and then it'll go purple. So it's like it changes with the
Well,
season.
we've had lots of hummingbirds, and of
Oh
course our
yes.
bluebirds are out.
Oh, where is it?
I think we've always had a lot of birds here, probably for especially as we've converted to a little less farmland over the last 30 years in our particular block. It's harvested, holding a lot of different animals and birds, but and we're growing a little more variety than some people. But we just have a tremendous amount of bird activity right now.
And I seem to have forgotten to upload the picture. I have a
What
picture
was it?
of the hummingbird that got into the
Oh, did you?
greenhouse today.
It's the second hummingbird that got in the
Yeah,
greenhouse.
I'll have to show it to you next week because I know I had a picture of that that I just forgot to upload here. But yeah, we had a female hummingbird. We only get ruby-throated hummingbirds up here, but in our greenhouse that I had to go and let out of the greenhouse. It was hovering around the
And I
ceiling.
had one a week or so ago hovering around the ceiling that we have a large portion of the panels been removed from the greenhouse to allow it to vent better.
Okay.
And I think they go along there, but we've had a good number of hummingbirds zipping all over.
Yeah. And I did get, today I did get a good number of bags on the apples, but not in time to prevent all of this.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to be really, really fast. And it's like, oh no, not till they start growing an actual fruit. And
Well, they have to be
but
growing
yeah, but
actual
you have to
fruit
do it really,
really quick. You have
really
like a
quick.
window of a half a week to do it, really, because once they get this big, okay, see this little ugly thing on the bottom half of this fruit that's sticking out? That is an insect. That is the plum curculio. That ugly thing that basically makes the notch in there. I think it lays its eggs in there, and then that fruit is done. So it does it when it's really young. If you see any of these little half moon, like little crescent shape scratches on these little apples,
About a millimeter or two. Little.
yeah, then
Yep.
they're done. So we're trying to get these, and we have a video on this from last year, but these organza wedding bags over the apples. The problem is when the apples are too small, they just fall off. So you have to be really careful getting it over it. But if it's like this apple is only like this big in that picture, it's still small, but it's on the bigger end of the apples that we have in there, and they're already laying their eggs in there. So it's, I got about 75 apples
Well,
covered.
if we get,
And I was only getting the good ones.
yeah,
I was trying not to do any with any marks on them. So we'll see. So I bought 200 bags. Didn't get them all. And those are just ones I could reach. I couldn't go all
really,
the
you
way
get them
up.
on peaches too. Okay, we have a lot
Yeah.
of peach farms in there, and we do have a lot of commercial fruit farms, so we're heavy on pests
Yeah.
that like fruit.
Yeah, alien looking. I agree.
And yarrow, yeah, yarrow. You've collected yarrow a lot and dried it
Mhm.
for your teas.
Teas, yeah.
The what was it good for? Allergies?
Oh my gosh, now I have to go look it up. Yes, there were some
Do
things.
you have yarrow as a herb of the week?
I do. It's on our webpage. So if you go down to our webpage and the link down below, and I'll pull up, actually, I'll pull it up here for you. I am working on a, putting together a, like index for all the herb of the week things. I've just started listing them. I haven't made all the links yet. So I'd have to go through and find it because the links aren't there, and I know it's a ways in there.
Yeah,
But what I'll
one of
do
the
is
earlier ones.
list the webpage, and you guys can go look at it. We have a lot of herb of the week things on
Can't you
here.
search for it? You don't have a search in your web?
Not on here. I wonder if I could on. I'd have to figure that one out. But I'll list our webpage. Eventually, I will get those linked up for the index, so you don't have to go sifting
But yeah,
through all
so
of
we
the,
you take the flowers and you hang them and dry them,
dry them, and you can make tea out of them.
and they can be a tea by themselves or part of an herbal blend tea.
Yep. So, okay, so just learning about organic pesticides.
Yeah, we haven't done a lot of research on plum coolio and what can be used against it effectively. I think we asked about a little bit last year, and there wasn't a lot of great.
Not a
from
whole,
a couple of people that know quite a bit in the area. Didn't have a great answer.
And I don't like spraying even some of the organic pesticides on necessarily because they're not necessarily really edible either. So
Well, most of them are water soluble, so you
yeah.
have to spray them over every time it rains. You have to spray them again. So it's the time to do it, because even organic. So let's say commercial apples sprayed like 30 or 40 times sometimes. An organic apple still sprayed like 15 times. And so you have to spend the time, the money, and the knowledge of when to do it, and then physically get out there and spray. Sometimes it's just clay or soap,
yeah,
which are inexpensive and totally
sometimes
harmless.
it's putting up a just a something like a thing
or
of
netting
molasses or something
yeah.
to,
So
like for the
we just don't
codling
know
moth.
enough about it because that's not something
Yeah.
we've done. The things
So we
that
just
are
cover
easy
'em.
to do, we would like to.
Yeah.
You know, we'd like to do some things, but we don't have schedules where on a given day, even if we know we need to do something, that we can necessarily run out there and do it.
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing that might be a good thing, because I know over on Stefan's page, Permaculture Orchard, they have a lot of information on how they keep their things. And part of it is just interplanting everything so you don't get as
That's
much
kind of where
spread
we're moving to, is trying to,
from one plant to the next.
spread the plants a little farther between.
Yeah.
So, and then to put in other plants around that may resist or create, bring in predators that'll eat them.
Barriers.
Yep.
Or just put a barrier. So even if one plant gets infested, it's not going to jump to the next plant over if the next plant over is not the same type and not with the same.
Yeah, I mean, we're not
pest.
commercial farmers. We're not. Fruit is, we all know, is super difficult. Good fruit. We have lots of fruit in the area, so we get pressure.
Yeah. But I do
general
know
commercial pressure. So
I know he does things like some traps with molasses in them for trapping some of the pests. He does things, excuse me, like put up mason bee houses and attracting the bees for pollination, but also tries to
Oh, there you
track
go.
some of the wasps for the eating.
For digestive fever,
Yeah,
headaches, and
absolutely.
wounds. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so basically, yeah, I would check out Permaculture Orchard. He has a webpage. You can download his video. I don't think it's too expensive.
Well, he's a professional biologist that's many years into
Yeah.
building a permaculture orchard where he claims he gets, I think, 80% plus yield. He matches or bests the commercial fruit farms
Yeah.
in his area.
And his entire orchard is not quite set up that way. He has an island of the interplanted stuff. He bought an orchard, so not all of it's set up where.
Yeah, it's all rows and columns because he's converted an older traditional orchard.
Yeah. But he has like a center, and he said that center creates a little bit of a barrier even for the neighboring plants that in the areas that he hasn't gotten to adjusting yet. So he hasn't, like, he usually puts some nut trees in between, and he puts some nitrogen fixing trees in between. And he does do groups of 3 with a fruit, a nut, and a nitrogen fixer.
And he does lightly treat, but with natural,
with like soaps and stuff.
Yeah. So because he's a biologist, he takes very strong, very consistent records, and he aggressively uses effectively naturopathic, style. So he is a beyond organic permaculture, but he will aggressively attack an issue, and many, from sticky traps to bringing the right bugs in to all kinds of stuff, whatever he can figure out.
Yeah, the thing is, if you're trying to spray any sort of insecticide, I always hesitate because you're also going to end up killing a lot of your beneficial bugs. I'd rather attract the beneficials and let them deal with the problem more. And it's not going to mean you're going to get rid of the problem. It's just going to limit it.
Yeah,
so
he's in southern Canada on the east coast.
Ontario. Or is it Ontario or Quebec?
Quebec.
He might be Quebec. Southern Quebec.
Southern Quebec. And he says he claims he consistently gets in the mid to upper 80% yield, which is considered a commercially acceptable yield with traditional pesticide and multiple spraying.
And he doesn't do that.
So that's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of people would think if they could get 50 or 60% yield instead of 80 or 90% yield, they would have been happy with it, especially when you're not putting all the chemical inputs and cost.
Plus, he has multiple crops.
And he's got lots of crops, and I think he's got a big CSA, so he's probably acre for acre doing much better than a commercial farmer on his yield and his physical or cash.
Your dog is trying to crawl under your. Oh, thunderstorms.
Oh.
I'm like, what?
Pudding doesn't really care. Jello, our original part-time Permies Dane, would hide in the closet. He was not happy.
Soon as, even if you couldn't really hear the thunder, as soon as you start seeing lightning, he was in the closet. And
shaking. He was not
he
happy.
Did not like it. Our St. Bernard, who we used to have, didn't care
unless it was just a huge thunderstorm.
Even then, he didn't really, because I think we were in New York,
fireworks
right off
didn't bother him.
The Hudson River, and I would sit out on our deck watching the fireworks with him right next to me, falling asleep with the fireworks going off. So he got used to that pretty darn quick.
Jello did not
like
deal with fireworks.
No.
Well,
no,
Pudding's okay with fireworks.
He would either hide in the closet or go up on the bed and have to like cuddle on the bed with me to settle down. But no, Pudding doesn't care. I've never seen her even react to who knows about fireworks yet, but at least the thunder.
We've had some fireworks in the area.
A little bit.
We have people that shoot guns.
Yeah.
Recreational shooting, a
she
little hunting,
up.
But mostly target. Pretty regularly, and that doesn't give her any big problem.
Yep. She perks up. She doesn't really freak out though. Your mom's dog tries to climb on her head. That would be hard with our giants. It would probably be more of trying to crawl. No, I can't talk anymore. Crawl in your lap. The giants tend to do that anyway. But anyway, we should wrap up because it's like 10:20 at night, and
you got a busy week of stuff going on.
Yeah, I got a lot of stuff to do still. So for this week, and have to work tomorrow. But it's definitely been a fun night. A lot of chatting. And we will be back next week, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. and hit the bell if you want a little heads up that we're, starting our live
we're
show.
using Instagram a little bit more than we have been in the past,
Yes.
as just a really easy way to put up interesting things through the week.
And quick updates.
And a lot of
on
them
things.
are also. You move your Instagram to Facebook also?
Yeah, so a lot of them goes
So
into
it
the
goes to
Facebook
either. Pretty much either way.
The group is different than the page. The group is a lot easier to chat back and forth on, but the Instagram automatically posts to Facebook pages. So we do have Part-Time Permies on
Gin
both
shots
ways.
aren't popular. What's wrong with gin shots? Gunshots.
Gunshots.
Autocorrect. A lot of people don't like gin, but had a bad experience with gin.
Gin and tonic is okay.
I don't know. I don't mind. I don't mind gin.
Yeah.
But yeah, gunshots.
Which gin is made with what foraged item?
Well, gin is made with all kinds of things. It's basically an aromatized vodka type product, but traditional London style gin or Dutch gin, where typically has a fairly heavy presence of juniper.
Yeah.
So pine, but could have many other things.
Yeah, the berries.
Yep. Which is why a lot of people don't like it, because they drank too much of it at some point, and it's a very pronounced flavor, and then they cannot even stand the smell.
It was originally made to be medicinal and affordable to the poor, but it ended up turning into an affordable drunk pour instead of an affordable medicinal for the poor. So yeah, that ended up getting a bad rap at one point. But anyway, just lost power for a second. Oh no. Well,
so you had storms coming your way. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna head out. We got to finish up for the night.
Yep. And we will see you next week, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take care, you guys. Have a good night.
Good night.